Hey everyone, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Happy daily drop-in morning. Remember that for daily drop-in, we're live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. I have Amanda here with me today. Amanda, I'm so stinking excited to talk shop with you, dive into so many different things. We have some new segments today. We have some recommendations. We have questions in our brainstorm bank, and I cannot wait to get started with all this fun. As you are tuning in, please make sure that in the comments you're throwing your thoughts, your questions. Let us know where you're streaming from. All things good morning. We will start off, obviously, after we kick off our introduction here with our morning cheers and be discussing anything that you need to get your morning started for the rest of today. So we'll be back. Hey, Amanda, how are you doing?
Good. Can I just tell you with that intro, and it reminds me of the Teach Better conference, and it just makes me have the warm and fuzzies every single time I see that. Can I just point that out?
I think that was the last time I saw you in person, was the Teach Better conference in 2019.
Yeah, too long. Way too long, by the way.
Way too long, way too long. Good morning to everybody. So glad you're here. Amanda and I are so excited to start kicking off your morning. Hope maybe some inspiration, for sure, a ton of support, and love connecting even further with not only people that we are able to invite as a guest on with us for the Daily Drop-In, but also in the comments. Mike is kicking us off in the comments this morning, which is so fun. Amanda, I am loving celebrating our morning with a morning cheers. So cheers, friend. How's your coffee this morning? Are you drinking coffee?
I am drinking coffee. It is strong. I'm used to summertime. So for me, getting up this early is like, whoa.
I know, but a lot of people are going back. So I'm so excited that we're able to kick off Daily Drop-In again, starting in August, Monday through Friday now at 7 a.m. every single morning. So we're always going to be here to be accessible. Can we talk about that mug really quick? Because I feel like that needs to be a discussion.
Absolutely.
First coffee, then I lead. That is an Aspire to Lead mug in the swag store. I am such a fan. Aspire to Lead is a brand that Joshua Stamper is incredible at building. It has a podcast connected to it. If you are in any way aspiring to be a leader, you have to go connect with that brand. That's so cool.
Yeah. The moment he came out with this mug, I also have the t-shirt. So just saying, this is my life. Well, if you ask my students, they go, have you had your coffee this morning? If I'm having a rough day. So they just know, like, Mrs. Oh, I almost said Miss Post. Mrs. Bolon needs her coffee. Okay. I know.
Wait, but that's a legit thing because you just got married, and every teacher kind of knows this. When you get married, your last name if your last name changes, now it's an entire shift. Is this your first school year with this new last name, right?
Yeah, 2 months ago today I got married, so 2 months of marriage. We're still married, so woohoo! But yeah, it was funny because my students last year, they got to see the whole thing. They got to see the engagement, and then they were really disappointed that they didn't get to come to the wedding. Sure. I had parents messaging me like, oh my gosh, my son is so upset that he can't come to your wedding. And so I had questions from them. They kept saying, oh, can we still call you Miss Post? Because, you know, we're not going to remember your new name. And I said, you can call me whatever. I was in the grocery store about a week and a half ago, and I hear Miss Post, and I whip around and I go, oh, I now have 2 names to respond to. So
it's so fun. You know, Amanda, I am, first of all, the wedding photos that came out, like, holy smokes. If any of you listening right now, as you're kind of like getting ready for your day, we know that a lot of you are kind of like preparing your morning while you're watching Daily Drop-In with us, which we love. So continue with it, have us on in the background. But a lot of people love to like see wedding photos. If you're that person, go look up Amanda's wedding photos. They're just so classic and just beautiful. And I'm so excited for you to kick off the year with kind of this new chapter of your life that's starting.
I know. It's very, very weird and odd, and seeing, the signs I had that had my name and now they're different. And trust me, when I get the full thing of wedding photos, they will be everywhere and you won't be able to ignore them. So just be prepared for that.
Amanda, I know that you are new on the team. You're a new member of the team, but you also have literally, I think, been involved since the beginning of Teach Better as a company in general. I mean, you were around when Teach Better wasn't even Teach Better. But before we get to all that, if people aren't connected to you in this professional manner, maybe they follow you on Twitter already or stuff like that. What do you do? What's the deal? Like, who are you? Tell us a little about yourself.
I am entering my 9th year in the classroom. This will be my 5th year as a second grade teacher. I did spend my first 4 years teaching in kindergarten. So yeah, that's the look I get whenever I tell people that. It was a wonderful experience, but definitely second grade is kind of my happy place. It's just, kindergarten, God bless kindergarten teachers is all I'm going to say. And I don't know how I did it for 4 years. So
I have to tell you, I always feel that way when I talk to any elementary teacher. God bless elementary teachers. God bless special education teachers. There are some things that in my world, always being in that middle level like realm, that I don't know how people do it. So even just you teaching second grade, like, you are my go-to elementary person. When people come to me and they're like, I have a question that's specifically related to a lower grade level that I'm problem solving through, I am always up for brainstorming. But like I shared with you guys on I think it was yesterday on Daily Drop-In, I'm happy to brainstorm, but like, I know people that will have answers, and you are my go-to elementary person.
Oh, well, thanks for that. I mean, 3 years ago, and Mike is asking what was Teach Better before it was Teach Better.
Yes, that's
it was the grid method. I mean, I have a t-shirt that says #TeachBetter, thegridmethod.com. Like, I have that shirt from training. So I think I came in right around the transition time.
Okay.
And, who would have thought 3 years ago, when I'm sitting in training with Chad and Jeff and Tiffany at the time, I was sitting in training with them, and who would have thought 3 years later that I would be part of the team and a go-to person for, elementary things. And sometimes I sit back and I go, who am I to get to do this?
I do want to clarify, you may not have known this, but when I joined the team, so the team was started in 2015. I joined about 2 years later. When I joined the team, you already were legendary. Like, people talked about you. And to me, you were like some teacher in Ohio. Like, I didn't even know, like, I didn't know you. I just knew you were some awesome teacher in Ohio that taught elementary. And I remember that shift of the branding, it went from the grid method as like a company. Obviously, the grid method is a mastery learning framework that the team does a ton of PD on, but the team was called that. We made that shift about a year after I joined. So what year would that have been? Like 2018-ish. Mm-hmm. And that was a big deal. So I do love that Mike was guessing that the name was Teach Pretty Okay. Like, that seems appropriate, but
if you could take the okay off the end there, Mike, and then just have Ray and I with Teach Pretty.
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, the reality is like, when I joined, the team was only doing support in mastery learning, only doing support with the grid method, which was incredible because Chad and Jeff at the time were transforming classrooms already with this concept. And as we kind of developed, as the team grew, as our network grew, we realized, oh my gosh, we are all so passionate about mastery learning. I know even the questions we're going to get to later in a future segment have to do with mastery learning. But it's not the only thing we do. Like, we love to publish content and support teachers in a million different things. So I love it. I see that Jeff's popping in with the official date of that change back in 2018, July 23rd, 2018. That was a moment.
Wow.
That was a moment.
Wow. Big deal. Big deal.
Hey, shout out to Jeff Gargas. We prepared for that name change. Sorry, I know we're going to move on to a new topic, but literally we prepared for that branding name change for over a year. because it takes a lot to like retitle everything and change the URL, and literally everything was the grid method. And we prepared like crazy. It was like down to the minute. We had everything planned, and then Jeff Gargis ruined it. And he sent out an email in the morning instead of in the evening, and it was an automated email. And we were supposed to go live, and we weren't live. And Jeff, it was Jeff's first mistake that I witnessed, and it was awesome.
Well, I want to point out it's totally different, but name changes are hard because I have been changing my name on everything, and there are still things that I think of and I go, oh no, I haven't changed my name there. So I understand the process of name changes. I think a company might be a little harder, but
No, but even for people that are listening right now, even if you haven't changed your name, like if you've moved ever, like it's the same with changing your address. Like 1,000 things need to be updated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I did that a year ago. So I moved a year ago and changed my address, and then I got married. So
terrible.
Hopefully no major life changes when it comes to me needing to change anything anytime soon.
Ugh, that was good. Stay consistent. Amanda, did you mention what you do on the team? I don't even think you did.
No, I came on this summer recently as the community relations manager. And so essentially what I do is I kind of support everyone from every one of our networks, depending on, if you're a podcaster or a speakers network or an ambassador or our new mastermind facilitators. And so I just kind of support, and I'm here to uplift and be there for anything anyone needs. The little fancy postcards that come out, my handwriting's being seen everywhere. I'm like, oh, that's my handwriting. Oh, that's my handwriting. So
I feel like, Amanda, you're like the warm and fuzzy person of the team. Like if anybody receives something from the team that like makes you feel warm and fuzzy, it's probably from Amanda.
Probably from me. It's okay.
I love it. So good.
That tells me what to do anyway. It's fine.
Great. Yeah. I'm loving all the comments coming in right now. We're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, which we do every single morning for the daily drop-in at 7 a.m. Eastern. Also, don't forget, if you're listening to this after the fact, it is an episode at Teach Better Talk Podcast, which you'll be able to see every single morning, a brand new episode from the previous day. I am seeing so many comments on the fact that people are just like celebrating that you are this all-star elementary teacher. I know that our questions that we have today are from the brainstorm bank related to being an elementary teacher, kind of managing all the pieces. So should we transition and kind of get to that topic since it looks like the comments are already getting us there?
Let's go ahead.
All right, let's get started. Before we get to the brainstorm bank, we are going to start with some good news this morning. So let's start there. Amanda.
That music really makes you want to bop.
Doesn't it?
You can't help but smile when that music comes on.
I am a fan that we start with like the classic Teach Better jam and rock and music, and we end with that too. But then in the middle, there's all these little ditties. Like I'm a fan. We have a new segment coming later today for Daily Drop-In, and that is a brand new ditty nobody's heard.
Yay, new ditties.
New ditty. Okay, so this one we do every single day. You guys already know this. We always like to share a good news story with you. The hope would be that as you're brushing your teeth in the morning, this maybe gives you some inspiration. Maybe it adds something that you're going to go look further into. And more importantly, you can bring this idea. We had a big discussion yesterday with Brad Hughes about bringing a good news story to your students and being able to utilize that as a way to build relationships or discuss challenging topics or just foster conversation. So Amanda, today we are still focused on the Olympics because it's still going on. We love the Olympics. Have you been watching it all?
I will tell you that I am a selective Olympics watcher.
Sure.
So I only watch certain events because not everything interests me, and that's okay.
Yep.
I will say I caught some horse riding yesterday and some weird indoor track cycling I didn't even know was a thing. Cool. I was dog sitting my parents' dog yesterday, and it just happened to be on. So I've caught some random new things this year, but I'm an Olympics fan, specifically gymnastics and swimming. They're my two things.
Yeah, and those have been so popular in the media. What I like about the good news article we're going to share today is it's kind of like a 5-part element, because you said that you're a selective Olympic watcher, meaning that you really want to make sure you tune in. If you're going to dedicate your time to tune in to watching something of the Olympics, you want it to be entertaining, valuable, you like to know the rules. This is the perfect article for you because it's highlighting the 5 classy Olympic moments that should win a gold medal for inspiration. So you could choose to only go watch these segments because you know that they are uplifting and meaningful and has something to look at. So I thought this would be really good for teachers if they wanted to bring 1 or all 5 into the classroom.
Oh, I love that. Now I'm going to have to find these clips and watch these things. I'm excited.
I know. And to be honest with you, I read these earlier this morning. I don't think I've seen any of them. So I know I'm telling all of you this now live. Obviously, these videos for Daily Drop-In are saved, not only where you're watching them on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, but they're also saved like in the podcast episode. So at some point you have to rewatch this video and specifically look up these segments. The first one is a swimmer wins gold and tosses it to a teammate in the bleachers. I would love to see that.
Oh,
I know. It looks like Caleb Dressel was tossing his gold medal to Brooks Carey. They have been swimming together and he was sharing his Olympic gold, which I would love to see that moment. It's actually linked here in the article that you can see that small clip on Twitter, but I encourage you guys to go check that one out. I just feel like that's always such a good moment, right? Witnessing someone's wonderful moment and then watching them share it with somebody else. Like,
yes.
It feels. I love it.
Yeah.
This next one made me nervous when I first read it. Runners crash, but then join forces to cross the finish line together, which, these are good moments. Yeah.
I might tear up a little bit. This is just people being great people.
I know. It looks like there was 2 incredible runners competing in the Olympics that fell, that really struggled to get through the race. And you watch them pick themselves up. They help each other get up, and they are walking to the finish line hand in hand, making sure that they cross the line. So I love that stuff.
Oh.
Number 3 is high jumpers decide to share the gold. It looks like there was a tie in the high jump, and they were celebrating the fact that they were sharing the gold together.
I saw that one, and it was, on in the background, but it was amazing because the moment they finished, the first thing they ask is, can we have 2 golds? And the guy's explaining the rules like, well, you can, but there could be a jump off. And they just look at each other and they're like, nope, we're both taking gold. And it was the most magical moment ever. They go and they celebrate separately with like their family or whoever's allowed to be there, their friends, their teammates, whoever it is. And it was amazing because it was 2 people who had worked so hard to get there. Yeah. And they decided to share that with someone else because why not? Why not have that opportunity to help the other person? Because if they'd gone to a jump off, one would have won gold, one would have won silver, and it would have been great still. But 2 gold medals is better than 1. I'm just saying.
I love it. You definitely have to go check that one out. The next one here, number 4, is brother and sister score first ever same day gold medal wins. Can you imagine, first of all, going to the Olympics with the sibling, second of all, winning gold along with your sibling, and winning gold on the same day? I think in different sports, maybe in the same sports. Hold on, I'm looking here.
I have no idea. I do know there have been a lot of sibling pairs this year from different countries that have been in the Olympics. I know that in gymnastics, because that's my thing, there were twins from Great Britain in the women's gymnastics, and they both were competing in like the all-around final. So
yeah, it looks like these 2 siblings were both competing in judo, but because it was a male and female, they don't compete against each other. They were competing in different spaces. So, wow, both both Japanese brother and sister. That's so cool.
Could you imagine training with that person your entire life growing up? And then can you imagine like their parents, how proud they are of both of their kids I know, like it makes you want to cry. Like I think of my mom and how proud she is. Hi, Mom, if you're watching or listening.
Hi, Mom.
Or watching later, I don't know. She gets really excited whenever I come live. So, it's like my mom being proud of me for that. I'm like, oh my gosh, like 2 siblings to win a gold medal on the same day. That's amazing.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I think that each one of these stories, and we still have one left because there's 5 total, each one of these stories have such incredible moments that you can discuss with your students, whether it's pulling up a clip so you can kind of use that multimedia to introduce this idea to students. There's then a few paragraphs here. I'm on goodnewsnetwork.org. So there's a few paragraphs here where you can provide some context to students. And then think of the discussions you can have. I mean, when you're talking about brothers and sisters, that's a whole separate avenue you can go. Winning gold, sharing gold together, the sportsmanship of crossing the finish line together. I mean, these are really inspiring stories, not only as individual humans appreciating these moments, but fostering really wonderful discussion with our kids.
I mean, it doesn't get better than this. And especially for people going back to the classroom within the next couple of weeks, this is still extremely relevant. Oh. You know, the Olympics are, I mean, that's one of the most important things about, you know, bringing things into your classroom is you want the students to be able to relate to them, or, you know, they can say, hey, guess what? You know, the Olympics just happened. Let's talk about this. So, oh, I'm so excited about these. I'm going to have to get this specific link from you because I will be using this when I go back in a couple weeks. So.
Yeah, I'm telling you. And guys, this is relevant no matter when you're going back, how you want to bring this up. So feel free to share all these stories. We always are trying to share some good news with each and every one of you every morning on Daily Drop-In. So you not only get some inspiration for yourself, but also can extend and share to others, which is awesome. Okay, this last one I found super interesting as a middle school math person. There's a mathematic professor who won the cycling gold. And he's 30 years old. He's a PhD in mathematics, and he won the gold. And after 91 miles of pedaling, they won. I just think it's amazing.
91?
Yep.
Okay. I don't even like to pedal a bike for like 5 minutes, let alone 91 miles.
It's amazing. Yeah. Stunned the world with an incredible victory in women's road race final.
Wow. So cool. Oh my gosh. Like think about that too. Think about, you know, she's a professor. You don't have to just be good at one thing. You can be good at many things and just, oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so excited for her. Woohoo!
I know. I love the good news. Cheers to all of you. Hopefully you're having a good morning so far. We've been live for 20 minutes. We're going to transition into our next segment. But Amanda, I just think the good news element is important, that while we continue to see elements that can bring us down, that cannot uplift us in the news, spending some intentional time to celebrate the incredible things going on in the world, whether it be the Olympics or 1,000 other things, it's a great spot. So shout out to Brad Hughes for sharing this resource with me, the goodnewsnetwork.org, but also the ability to bring these ideas to students is so fun. We will be back here in just a second. Continue with all the comments, guys. We are moving into our brainstorm bank.
The claps for me on that one. I love that.
I know, it kind of feels like a Friends thing where you want to like be in the background and be like, you know?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Are you a Friends fan? Did you watch that show?
Yeah. I am a Friends fan. I was a little sad whenever a certain streaming service took it off of their streaming service, but that's okay.
Yes, not to name names, but you know,
everyone knows.
Just kidding. Well, for all of you that are still here with us, good morning. Happy daily drop-in morning. Make sure if you are enjoying this feed to not only be in the comments, have us on in the background as you are getting your day started, but also share this feed so you can not only share the good news stories that we just discussed for the Olympics, but also the discussion that we're about to have with the questions submitted in the brainstorm bank and everything in between. You know, Amanda, the brainstorm bank segment is truly just an opportunity for people to kind of throw all their questions in with the opportunity that it will be discussed on the show. You can submit your questions at teachbetter.com/brainstormbank. It's just a place where we don't really ask for a lot of information from you at all. We're just looking to cultivate a space for you to ask questions and then hopefully be able to have someone discuss them. And Amanda, while I always love when people submit to the brainstorm bank because it gives us some really strategic content pieces that we can discuss for our network, right? Daily Drop-In was created for us to be accessible and be here when you need us. But I pulled some questions today that really had to do with the work that you do as an elementary teacher in mastery learning.
Oh, well, I'm in the hot seat now. Let's see how this goes.
You are in the hot seat. Before we get into all that, tell me a little bit about your journey using mastery learning, because when I heard about you, you were already like known in my bubble as the Mastery Learning elementary awesome go-to person. How in the world did that happen?
I have no idea. No, so we were lucky. Our district, our curriculum director at the time, who just retired, he brought Chad in for an end of the year PD, just kind of to introduce the grid method. And I remember sitting there, and at the time, Maggie Gifford was my teammate. If you haven't connected with her, please go do so. She's teaching first grade now at a different building. I miss her, but hi, Maggie. We decided, okay, like we're going to go and see what this is with a 2-day training. So luckily our local ESC grant, a grant was funded. So we were able to attend the training, the 2-day training. And I will tell you, we sat there. We were a little overwhelmed at first because there are a lot of moving pieces and parts and things, but we're like, you know what? We're just going to jump in. We're going to see how this goes. And if we fall on our face, that's okay. We're the only ones in elementary in our district doing this, and nobody else will have to know. It'll be fine. So we split up the work and we started with a math grid. And I will tell you that the first math grid was very painful, mainly because you're dealing with 7 and 8-year-olds. Yeah. And it's a whole different way of thinking for them that they probably haven't been exposed to, just because so much of our lower elementary especially is guided instruction, because you're teaching kids how to read and how to deal with numbers, and it's a lot. So I remember, you know, our math grade, we started with something easy, something short, and I thought, oh my gosh, these children need me more than when they needed me before. And I thought, but how amazing is that? Because they're identifying that they need me, and they're like explaining that to me and to others. So, you know, we kind of started in our first language arts grid was an epic fail because we didn't realize that our kids didn't have the background knowledge they needed. And it was rough for the first few months. But once we got the system in place, once the kids understood what was going on, once we felt more comfortable, it completely changed my classroom. It completely changed the feel. It changed the experience. It changed my workload. It changed kind of everything. And, you know, we after, you know, we'd only been doing the grid method for 8 months or so, we applied to present at the Teach Better conference, Teach Better 19. And I remember the last day of school, we got the, hey, you've been chosen to present. And our kids were so excited for us because they had seen how hard we had worked to help them become better. And they're like, you mean you get to go teach other teachers? And I said, yeah, I get to go teach other teachers. And they were so excited. And so from there, you know, I've grown and built this bank of grids, and my mindset has completely shifted from, you know, a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered classroom. And, you know, it's just, it has changed everything for me. In 3 years, my entire teaching career has just done a complete 180. And I feel teacher burnout, but I don't feel it like I did before, because I feel like I'm prepared on the front end. And that way I can kind of dive into what I need to on the back end. And I don't have to spend as much time with everything once you kind of have it set up. So I am, trust me, I will talk mastery learning to anybody who asks me, and I will tell elementary teachers everywhere that it's possible. I know that it took a few years, but I think this year we're going to have teachers in most of our grade levels in my building at least doing some sort of mastery learning framework. And so it's taken a few years, but people are jumping on my crazy train, and, you know.
Well, I love it. I think it's great because it really shows that it is not an overnight process, right? Every time we implement a new idea, it takes time, and there's going to be hurdles. I mean, your analysis of, yeah, the first few months are really hard. That's my story too. Yeah. And so as you're looking at an educator, whether they're implementing mastery learning or not, although our questions are going to be a little bit more focused on that because people were asking in our brainstorm bank, which you can submit your own questions, by the way, at teachbetter.com/brainstorm bank. But regardless, our overarching theme this week is about implementing a new idea. And anytime you're implementing a new idea, I love that you had a partner in crime that was helping you. Mm-hmm. I love that you interacted with hurdles, and that didn't mean that you gave up, but it means that you adjusted or sought out support. And then you also were sharing what you were experiencing with others. And so whether the teachers in your building started taking that on, started taking interest because you were sharing big wins, or just the fact that you were being a learner, that really does percolate then throughout not only our colleagues, our staff members, but also our students, and seeing that we are taking on new challenges and able to find success in those moments. So I love your story about that, Amanda. I think that that's so important for us all to consider.
Yeah, and I love, Alex has a question here. It says, what was my motivation to continue through the challenges? I mean, I think the thing you have to learn is that you're a constant student as well. And if I'm asking my students to, fail, your first attempt in learning, and then get up and try again, how can I not be a model for that in my classroom? So I think that mindset shift came in, and it was necessary for me, because before I was okay, we're done, let's move on. And I really wasn't doing what was best for my kids. So I think, to answer Alex's question, I think for me, it was just being that example for my kids that, hey, this went really terribly, but it's okay. Tomorrow we're going to try again. And that showed them that they could also do that with their own learning.
It's interesting, Amanda, and especially for those of you watching this morning as you're sipping on your coffee, the Daily Drop-Ins overarching topic this week being implementing new ideas. We've kind of seen this progression in the discussion. We started off with Jeff sharing his thoughts on this idea on Monday, and his focus was really on, when you decide to take on a new challenge, decide if you're going to take it on like full force, like you're going to take the entire thing on all at once and you're going to kind of dive into the deep end. Or are you going to start off by saying, I'm going to take little bites as I go, and I'm going to build up into what I want to see long term? And we actually got into a beautiful discussion on the pros and cons that come with whatever decision you choose. Brad Hughes then added another layer to this, that once you make that decision, really being able to determine, why are you moving in this direction, so that you can identify how you're going to measure if you reach success. So when you interact with these hurdles, should the hurdles be stopping you? Like, you shouldn't be doing this at all? Or are the hurdles kind of leading you in the right direction and finding your footing? And Brad did a great job kind of breaking down how, if you are always going back to that why, you can develop the measurables to evaluate if you're being successful or unsuccessful. This next element in that is, once you identify your approach, once you identify your measurables, how can you tweak, and what are you going to do when you interact with hurdles? Kind of fits in beautifully with your story, because you were collaborating with people, and when you were working through finding the motivation for these challenges, you knew what you were working towards. You just needed to find your footing and getting there, and you were able to do that by seeking friends out. I know you connected a lot with Chad. I mean, all those things kind of allowed you to reach the goal that you were trying to reach.
Yeah. And I think around me, I had that support system. I always knew that the team was here for me if I needed anything. Chad was able to come into my classroom a few times that first year, and, he'd say, hey, buddy, like, what's going well? What do you need help with? And I never felt like, oh my gosh, Chad, he created this whole system. Like, oh my gosh, I can't show weakness. I can't show him my flaws or my failures, because I had learned from him and from the team that it was okay to be open to new things and to not have them be successful the first time, as long as you kept trying to be better. And so, I definitely connected with the team and what they were doing, in it's another PD, but I will tell you that I have truly found a family and a support system that I've really needed, especially over the last couple of years with everything going on. So, and that's why Daily Drop-In was created, is to support, teachers during the midst of complete shutdown, and, oh my gosh, what do we do? And not only checking, helping with ideas for students, but checking on just, teachers and how they were doing, and anything they needed. So, I'm excited that the daily drop-in is back because I think it's going to support teachers now as often as they need it.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Finding that support is hard. And no matter where you're a teacher, many of us have experienced what it feels like to teach on an island and not feeling like you have your go-to person. Mike here in the comments says, I found the people that were interested in mastery learning or other non-traditional approaches they've not been the one that I work with directly or the ones that I work with indirectly. I do have to say, I have done so many things in my career where sometimes it resonates with the people that I work closest with and sometimes it doesn't. And it's not a bad thing. As you're exploring mastery learning, it doesn't mean you can only brainstorm with people that love mastery learning. Mastery learning has a number of different pieces that you need to incorporate, classroom management being a major one. And so just because your colleague down the hall isn't using mastery learning, they might be able to give you some classroom management suggestions. So you start to break apart whatever new idea you're exploring, break it apart into tiny, tiny little pieces that create that beautiful idea that you're trying to reach. You can go to people who maybe teach differently than you, have a different philosophy than you, and still take on new ideas. There's so many ways to collaborate these days.
Yeah. And I mean, if you can't find that support down the hall, refer to your PLN. I mean, I think we've learned that between Twitter and Facebook and all the things that you have a support system. And I think, Mike talking about that, you have a support system outside of just the four walls of your building. So I think, you need to capitalize on that as much as possible and share and grow with each other. So.
Completely. Oh, I'm loving all the comments. There's so many good things here. Amanda, a lot of the questions that I was going to pull from Brainstorm Bank for you to kind of address is the concept around mastery learning in an elementary classroom. For those of you who, use mastery learning, this is really not supposed to be a segment pitching this idea to you. But to give you some context, it was created by Chad Ostrowski, who's the CEO and co-founder of the Teach Better team. And when he created this framework, he created it in a low-income urban environment. He was working as a science teacher in middle-level education, and we have seen it successful K-12. But I will tell you, Amanda, a lot of elementary school teachers come to me and say, yeah, but I teach all these subjects. How do I incorporate mastery learning in my own classroom? Where do you even begin? And so with this overarching theme this week about implementing new ideas, if we could spend a few minutes specifically focused on mastery learning, what is your advice to an elementary school teacher that says, okay, I know this was created in a middle school classroom, but I also know that it's been successful K-12. I know that it's been successful in every content area, in every state and community that it's been incorporated within. But where do I personally start on this journey if I teach 5 subjects plus and, I'm working in kind of an elementary world?
Yeah. Don't start with all 5 subjects.
Good.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
When we first started, it was very overwhelming because there really wasn't a whole lot of experience within elementary classrooms. Mm-hmm. And we were
You were super early on in this. Like we were just starting the research, we were starting all these pieces, but like I said, you were kind of diving in full force. There was a lot of research for individual pieces, but not the framework holistically. So sorry to interrupt, but that's awesome.
Oh, you're fine. And when asking the question of how does this look in an elementary classroom, there really wasn't someone I could specifically talk to who was in the trenches in an elementary classroom working on this. So I think, what Maggie and I did is we took everything and we decided that we were going to start with something that was going to be an easier concept for the kids because they're learning a whole new way of learning. Yeah. And you're trying to teach content through that. Now, I will say that since that first year, I do an intro grid or a back to school grid every year with my second graders. And essentially what that is it includes a lot of our classroom and school rules, community building within our classroom, getting to know the building, getting to know people in the building. It includes that taught through a grid. because one thing that I found, and especially if you're starting out with littles like I have, is it's really hard to teach a new concept and a new procedure at one time. And if you're an elementary teacher, you know what I'm talking about. You can't come in the first day and start talking about, addition facts and teach them how to do the math fast fact thing at the same time, because it's going to be too much for them to handle. So I think the biggest thing I would suggest is, if you are interested in starting, a mastery learning framework of any kind, I have experience with grid, whatever your decision is, start with something that is easier conceptual wise, so you can teach the procedures. And it's funny looking back to that first year, we were teaching arrays, and for us it was the easiest math topic we would have all year. It was in October, I think, so we had enough build up with the kids, and it gave us time to create a grid because our training was in August. So it gave us time to kind of figure that out. And now that I look back, I go, man, I really wish, and it probably would have gone a little bit better if I had started with an intro grid of some sort. So that's kind of my biggest thing, is start with something that's going to be easy for them to learn the procedure and not so heavily weighted in the concepts.
Yeah, Holly Stewart's jumping in, who's an incredible member of the Teach Better family and a Teach Better ambassador. She says, I'm not an elementary level, Amanda, but I found the same thing in middle school. Take it one step at a time, a new thing at a time, introducing the grid method. I love intro grids. We actually facilitated a number of webinars this summer on how to build an intro grid. If you're looking to get that support, yes, there's a ton of resources in the academy, but there's also a lot of people sharing introduction grids during this time every single year in our private Facebook group. It's at teachbettergroup.com. I just really love it. It has a search feature. So if you join that Facebook group, go to the search bar and search introduction grids or intro grids. You're going to find a ton of examples. And like Amanda said, it really is focused on like how to introduce procedures to your students. And then once a procedure is set in place, getting them some time to actually practice those procedures over and over and over and over. Alex says, shout out to Holly's amazing Teach Better blog post about intro grids. Ooh, head over to teachbetter.com/blog and apparently go check that out. I have not seen that blog. What is he talking about?
And it's Holly's first blog, which is exciting. Yeah.
Holly, we're so excited that you're a guest blogger with us and that you focus on intro grids. No kidding. How timely. Did you know we were talking about those? That's so cool.
I didn't give her any information. I will tell you that I really enjoyed, during the last 12-hour live, I got to go on with Holly and chat and talk about student growth and learning gaps and things like that. And I love talking to Holly. If anybody has any questions about anything, Holly is like a person to talk to. She's just fantastic. So
she always
shout out to Holly.
Such good ideas. I so love that. Amanda, the last thing I want to make sure I articulate before we transition here to our new segment is, one of the things you said is that don't start with all the content at once. And it's different when you're in a middle school setting or in a high school setting. You might teach a course and you might start with using a mastery framework with that course, right? So for example, when I taught 6th grade math, I had an accelerated course and a grade level course, both focused on math. And the recommendation would be to either start the grid in both classes or start the grid only in one and see how that transition went. With elementary, they teach a number of different subject areas. And your suggestion was to take one at a time. Is that true?
Yeah, because when you think about an elementary teacher, especially lower elementary, typically 3rd grade and below, you're teaching math, reading, science, social studies, grammar, phonics, whatever else they throw at you to teach. I mean, I think I have seven preps a day for different things that I'm teaching. So I'm saying right now, do not start with your hardest subject, like the most difficult thing for you to plan for, and do not start with more than one. I know that we have a couple 6th grade teachers in my building who are just starting their first grids this fall. And, we just got a brand new reading program that we are muddling through. I'm still trying to figure out grids for that. So don't worry. It's not just people who are starting fresh. It's tough when you're doing it differently than what you've been doing it. But they said, we think we're going to start in social studies. And I said, that is a perfect place to start because that will build a lot of the project-based learning and things like that you get in the higher levels.
I want to clarify, that would be the worst subject for me to start in. I think that's my weakest area. It's the only subject I've never taught, and it's the subject that makes me so nervous. Like anytime I'm at a workshop with educators and I interact with the social studies teacher, every time I'm like, bless you. I don't know. I can't do it. I taught math, science, reading, writing. I have my favorites, but social studies would not be my go-to. Just to confirm, but I'm glad it is for you. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, not for me personally, for the 6th grade teachers that are going to be teaching it. So bless them for dealing with 6th graders in the first place. But you know, yeah.
But you're right, Amanda, like start with what you enjoy because then you can really get the juices flowing. You can allow yourself to have those early successes. Trust me, there's plenty that will still need to happen that you will overcome. But if you feel like you're starting with your favorite unit or your favorite subject, you're going to just feel more confident. You're going to be able to know what questions to ask because you already have such a strong background knowledge in that area.
Yeah.
For all of you that are listening, don't forget you can always submit more questions, not only for Amanda, but for anybody that joins our daily drop-in over at teachbetter.com/brainstormbank. You can put in 1,500 questions for us or just one. They can be content related. They can be grid related if you want. They can be team related about the Teach Better team if you want to hear more about Amanda's amazing wedding or how she's going through her name change. All those things are fair game in the Brainstorm Bank, so feel free. I really recommend, I know this, Amanda, sounds kind of lame, but I really recommend like opening it up. Go to teachbetter.com/brainstormbank and just bookmark it. Because right now, if you're live with us, you can just submit your questions in the comments, and we really do our best to try and read every comment as we're live and incorporate it into the discussion. But like when you're in the middle of your day and something comes up and you're like, oh, how am I supposed to like overcome this? Of course, go to the person down the hall and call up your best friend that teaches across the community, but also throw it in the Brainstorm Bank because we'd love to brainstorm that with you too. So these aren't just for the moments where you're in the morning sipping on your coffee and you think of something great, but it is for the moment where you're stuck and hopefully we can talk about it within that 24-hour period. So just an easy spot for all of you. Amanda, are you ready to get to some recommendations for the week? Because on Wednesdays, we recommend things we love, and I have a really good recommendation for us this week.
I am so excited.
All right, let's get started.
That one has more of a flowy vibe to it.
Oh, feel like we were moving and grooving, right? Recommendations for the week. No, I think it's important, you know, guys, we for a daily drop-in every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and then obviously also housed in Teach Better Talk podcast episodes. Like we want to make sure that this week is valuable. We always have this overarching theme, which we've discussed a lot so far this week of implementing new ideas. But as you're doing that, as you're chewing on these concepts, what a good opportunity for us in the middle of the week as we continue to discuss a lot of these pieces to give you some resources. So whether it's going to be a book or a podcast episode or a person, we want to make sure that we're able to recommend something to you to continue your exploration, whether it be in the theme topic or in something that's come up so you can continue to be a learner. So I like this segment, Amanda. I think this could be cool.
I'm excited. I feel like this is going to be like that bite-sized PD that everyone's going to need in the middle of the week, especially once everyone's back to school. I know some people have started, some people are getting ready. If you need something in the middle of the week, it may just be that moment of, oh, here's something new that I can look at or try. So I'm excited to see the recommendation for today.
Well, and I think it's going to be valuable that it can be a number of different media modalities, right? So like 1 week, for example, today we're going to be recommending an entire book, but it's actually very strategic that it's not going to be a big chunk. I have a lot of recommendations for you here in a second. But next week could be a blog that maybe is only a few paragraphs that you can go consume and get some ideas and connect with the author, or a podcast episode. I love listening to new podcasts. We'd love to be able to every week kind of bring you a new person to connect with, a new concept to connect with. That's the goal of all this. So Amanda, this week I feel like if you've been connected with me for a while, you've probably heard me recommend a book to you. I grabbed it off my bookshelf this morning, but it really fit with our theme. And so rather than fighting it, I am going back to this almighty resource that I always talk about because it works really well with us.
I'm excited to hear.
No, so this is a book that I legitimately talk about all the time. So I'm so sorry if you've heard me discuss this before, but I want to make sure we connect it to this concept of implementing a new idea. You know, Amanda, today we focused a lot on this concept of mastery learning, being a new idea you might be incorporating, but new ideas that we implement in the classroom, especially at the beginning of the year, can be massive ideas or teeny, tiny ideas, like a new idea that you have to get to know your students better, or a new idea you have to change up a space in your classroom that you're going to maybe incorporate flexible seating, or maybe the new idea is truly that you are going to be a better staff member this year, or you're going to build relationships with the people that you work with. I mean, new ideas are endless. I know a lot of comments about new ideas that I received in my DMs was like the new idea of not wearing black every day, because I apparently wear black all the time. So like,
I wore black today. I didn't even mean to match you, but it's okay.
I love it. But the whole point of this is like, regardless of how big your new idea is, everybody has small little things here that they're looking into. And for me, this book is the perfect thing to look into if the new idea or new goal that you have for yourself is related at all to grading. I don't know if you guys listening right now are thinking about your grading practices. It's extremely popular right now, but this is my favorite go-to resource for grading. And I want to articulate to you why it is, because there are a lot of books out there. And I love when we are able to go consume books and get new ideas. But this one specifically is perfect if you have a new idea that you'd like to incorporate with grading. And here's why. So this is called A Repair Kit for Grading, 15 Fixes for Broken Grades, and it's by Ken O'Connor. Shout out to Christopher McGraw. He brought this book to me when I was a teacher. He was my principal, and he brought this book to me as kind of the first step to evaluate how I was grading and what changes I wanted to make. This is my favorite part of the book. So again, it's called A Repair Kit for Grading, 15 Fixes. If you Google 15 Fixes, it's by Ken O'Connor, who has a ton of research. His expertise in this topic is incredible. Here's what I love. I recommend if you pick up this book that you do not read any part of this book and you go straight to the table of contents, because the table of contents gives you the chapter titles. And the chapter titles is what I love about this book, because every chapter title is essentially a fix, a change you can make to your grading. And so don't read the whole book cover to cover. I want you to go to the chapter titles, and I want you simply to read the titles. So for example, a title could be fix number 1. Don't include student behaviors like effort, participation, adherence to the rules, etc. in your grades. Only include achievement. So every chapter title is like a statement like that. So another one in here is fix number 2, don't reduce marks on work submitted late. Provide support for the learner. So there are these like big topics that you could do one thing to adjust your grades. And then my challenge to you is I want you to color code them. So I want you to color code them as things like, oh, that's a really easy fix. I already don't take off points for late work. Like that is an easy chapter. I already agree with it. Or I understand that chapter, but I'm a little hesitant. Or, oh my gosh, I don't think I even agree with that chapter title. I don't think I could do that one at all. And so the activity that Chris McGraw took us through in our class when we were studying this book was kind of like a green, yellow, red. So if it's red, it's something that you're not sure you'll ever agree with. If it's green, it's a really easy fix that you could choose to do for grading. The last step of this is choose one green and start there. So if you already agree that you shouldn't include zeros, then don't read any other chapter. Only go to that chapter, read the information, and start adjusting your grading from there. When you're done with all the greens, slowly move to yellows. And so I really love that this book doesn't need to be read cover to cover. It has really tactical takeaways, and each chapter kind of brings you along a new journey.
I mean, first of all, shout out to Ken O'Connor for organizing a book the way that a teacher's brain thinks.
Right.
I'm just saying, because we don't have time to dive into entire books sometimes, and we just need suggestions right now.
Right.
So that's amazing. Second, if you just go through and you're reading the table of contents, you may not even know what's going on with what you're doing in your classroom until you read the table of contents and you go, oh, I do that. Why shouldn't I do that? And then that provides a little bit of information about why you should change that practice or how you should do that in your classroom. Because sometimes we don't know what we don't know until we figure out we don't know it. So that's amazing.
Well, and I think that each one of these being a statement allows you as the teacher to say, how can I evaluate this? Do I agree? Do I not agree? And then within each chapter, there's not only those big statements, but there's the tactical takeaways, there's the evaluation of the idea, there's research to support it. So you then are becoming more educated on why you either agree or disagree with this change in grading so that you can be educated enough to make a decision of, I intend to incorporate this or not. And one of the ones here, like fix number 13, don't use information from formative assessments and practice to determine grades. Only use summative evidence. I mean, we've been discussing that in things like, Dave and Caitlin did an entire Focus on the Focus series, really on that concept. And within this chapter, they talk about student involvement. They summarize the idea. They talk about the teacher vantage point. And they talk about policy examples for you to utilize if that's a fix that you want to utilize. So I truly think start easy, similar to your suggestion with the grid method earlier in this segment. Start with something that's easy. Start with those greens that you already agree with, and then slowly move into these other ideas. And this book can kind of take you on that journey simply by reading the chapter titles first. I think that's really my recommendation.
I am excited. I now need this book. So thank you for this recommendation, because I didn't even know the book exists. I mean, I'd heard people talk about it, but I guess I really didn't think about it. But now I'm like, well, duh, why wouldn't I have that on my bookshelf? So I
really like this one. It's by Pearson. Pearson is the publisher. It's the second edition is the one that I have. It's super teeny tiny. If you guys see, it's a thin book. It's called A Repair Kit for Grading, 15 Fixes, Ken O'Connor, which I'm a huge fan of. And there's a bunch in here. So I'm a huge fan. That would be a recommendation for the week for our Wednesday recommendations we love segment on our daily drop-in. Just making sure that as you guys continue to think through new ideas, new concepts that you're working through, a new strategy that you could look into if grading is on your list to explore for this year. So kind of fun.
Excellent first recommendation, Ray.
I love that, Amanda. Thanks. I appreciate you. I always make me feel so good.
I just love chatting with you. It just always makes me feel good. So
I know. I can't believe that our daily drop-in segment is almost over. I love coming live every single morning with all of you, bringing in new guests, kind of hoping to sprinkle in inspiration, support, and new connections for each and every one of you. Amanda, I so appreciate and value not only our friendship, but working with you, because you always have a solution-focused approach. And you're always willing to share. And I want to make sure that everybody here understands that they can reach out to you. You're on the Teach Better team. You're doing incredible things, but you're also in the trenches, in elementary students every single day and kicking off your year. So as you continue to incorporate new ideas, I hope you keep us updated on how that goes.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, for anyone needing anything, I am on Twitter and Instagram at Amanda Bolon 1513. You can also email me at amanda@teachbetter.com. That feels weird, by the way, having that Teach Better email. Oh my God.
Love it. So,
feel free to connect with me. I was just talking to an educator yesterday who I'm going to send her some examples of things I'm doing in my classroom, because she wants to start grid in her elementary classroom. So I'm always open to discussions, and you guys just let me know if you need anything from me. I love sharing because it works so well for me. Why would I keep that a secret? Why would I keep that to myself? I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to feel successful.
Well, for everybody here, Amanda, thank you so stinking much. I hope you join us again for the daily drop-in anytime you have the availability. We're going to do our final cheers with our last sip of coffee. Hopefully you've already brushed your teeth. Make sure you put down your toothbrush. Cheers. Happy daily drop-in morning. We will see you again tomorrow morning, like we do every day, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We will have Caitlin Giordano on with us, and I can only imagine the suggestions that girl has on incorporating new ideas. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye, guys.